gonna have fun with this one all day, as we always do. But this right here is a very special guest. I met this guy in Chicago, so I have to do a proper rundown for this.
There we go. Lay it
I,
on them.
I got to. So, ladies and gentlemen, actor, producer, acting coach for on-camera workouts, also as Monday Funday as well, and 170 plus films and TV shows. Also, just hot off of the Broadway in New York City, got to call the Goon Squad from Righteous Gemstones, Chad.
That's it.
But we know who he is, Sir. At the beginning of the name, Sir
Not there yet. I have
James.
not been knighted officially, but we're working on it.
We're working on it,
Since we take
Sir.
over London.
James Dumont, ladies and gentlemen. Round of applause.
Hello, there we go. Round of applause. Here we go. Tapping. Yep.
There we, I told you, hey, I had to introduce you the right way, sir.
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So before we get started, Dumont, because where are you originally from?
I'm originally from Chicago. That's where
Okay.
I was born and raised. Chicago and New York. My parents divorced, so I like raised in Chicago and New York at the same time. So I went back and forth. But my family's Dumonts. For those who are like real like television history buffs, my great uncle started the first television network. There was no network before. He started Channel 5 in Chicago in New York, and then he ventured into Philadelphia and DC. So it was the first network. And some of the early shows on there was a show called The Cavalcade of Stars and the Jackie Gleason show. And Jackie Gleason had this skit about this bus driver and his friend, and that became The Honeymooners. So The Honeymooners, which is the first sitcom, was on my great uncle's television network. And there was also a thing called Captain Video, and there was like tons of there was wrestling. And then here's what's a really interesting fact: the first, and I mean absolute first, African American woman who had her own television show was on the Dumont Network. There was also an Asian woman who had a cooking show. So those early days, is my uncle was really a very pioneer in a lot of different ways. He was one of the inventors of the picture tube. So he was a scientist mostly, and so the early days of television were the 40s and the 50s. Is while the war was going on, he was building radios and stuff for the war, and then he had perfected the television. So the first mass-produced television was Dumont TV. So if you watch The Simpsons, if you're a Simpsons fan, they call it the Dumont. So that's where that comes from. So yeah, so my family's like part of television pioneer. He was the first television millionaire because he was on multiple stations, and then they got bought out by Metro Media, which became Fox. So
Hmm.
before they came crazy. So yeah, I said it.
Hey,
So yeah, so where we're at now is that yeah, there's just a great little kind of lineage there. The joke I always make is like when I'm making reservations for a French restaurant, I'm always like du poisson for Dumont, Dumont. They're like, yeah, Dumont too. We got Dumont. Okay, yeah, come on, let's go. We got you. So other than that, I like escargot and I like French toast, and that's as French as you get. Like that's all. I like French fries.
yeah.
Kind
Hey,
of like that's as international as I get. I'm like homegrown Midwest, big city, a little bit of both. Chicago and New York are like kind of two great cities to kind of grow up in. But I'm a city kid through and through.
hey, I love that, and
So,
that's just like me too with the last name Joffrion. I'm like Dumont. I'm like I failed French with flying colors,
Yep,
so
same.
I
Yep, yep.
barely
I
passed,
I
barely failed.
tried to speak it when I was in Paris, and they just looked at me like, I don't know what book you got that from. But I don't know what the hell you're saying.
Berejaka.
And then
You
they're like, we
already know.
speak English, and I was like, okay, great. All right, so I just need to know where the movie theater is. Like a Coin de la Rue, like where? No, not the library, Libertech, whatever. Yeah, yeah, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Guys, French is the love language. I gotta
It
learn a little bit
is.
of
Oh
French.
no,
Y'all
I
gotta
got
at
it.
least say, je m'appelle
Je m'appelle
James.
James Dumont.
Je
Yeah, Jacques.
m'appelle James Ophion. I can say that. Yeah,
Yeah,
Le
that
Crep. Yeah,
we can get that down.
yeah, yeah.
The
That's all you're
love
gonna
language
get.
stuff, that's a whole other conversation. We can go like it could veer in a whole other direction than I think that you probably don't want to go, but I'm with you on that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, let's get started with how did your acting journey start?
I was a kid actor in Chicago. So the early days of Chicago were like, there were lots of commercials. because
Mhm.
there's a big ad agency, Leo Burnett, which was in Chicago. And their first big clients were McDonald's started in Chicago. So the first commercials for McDonald's were all there. So I did McDonald's commercials. There, Sears was another big company in Chicago. So like Sears, McDonald's, Marshall Fields, like all these, So I started doing commercials at first. I did some print work when I was a little baby. My mom put in for there was a little contest with the Gerber baby bottles. So like if you put in your kid's picture and if they got picked, so I got picked way long time ago. So the first, so modeling was a big thing then, like you did, live modeling shows. You go and you do go-sees and like you show pictures and then and then you take photographs. Like it's like a print. I did a lot of print stuff. And then I did lots of theater as a kid. I was a part of a theater company called Jack and Jill Players, which they did
Mhm.
lots of musicals and stuff. So I did Peter Pan. I was John and Peter
Mhm.
Pan. And then my first big gig was I mostly started as an extra. So I was an extra in Risky Business. I was
Mhm.
extra in Thief. I was extra in the movie My Bodyguard. These are way, way back. And
Yeah.
then I got my SAG card in the movie The Blues Brothers. They were doing there's the scene where Ray Charles, their kids are dancing in the street, twist it, shake, 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 shake it, baby. So I was up on the train platform because my uncle was part of the CTA, Chicago Transit Authority, and we were on the train platform, and then one of the kids had to leave for like a doctor's appointment or something because they didn't think they'd be here all day. So then they asked if kids knew how to dance, and so I moved from the train platform right up square in the front, and did my little dance move. And I was like, and that was like, I was a must join at that point. So I was like, I'm getting my SAG card and this is it. And then the first speaking role I did was a movie Class with Andrew McCarthy and Rob Lowe and Jacqueline Bisset. And all of us Chicago actors all auditioned for the Andrew McCarthy role. So it was like Alan Ruck, Casey Samadko, John Cusack was in there. Like there was all the kind of young Chicago actors that were trying to get ahead, and then from there I did high plays in high school. I did the Diary of Anne Frank, which was incredible because it was in Evanston, right next to Skokie, and so we had actual survivors of the Holocaust telling stories to us before they had their like numbers on their. I mean, it was pretty intense,
Yeah.
and so mostly I've always been I'll go with the Denzel route. I'm not like I ain't Hollywood. I'm a theater
Mm.
actor that does movies and TV shows. So I've always been theater's always been the kind of the base of what I do. And I got away from it, in the last 20 years of raising kids, just because movie and TV's pay, and I can't do 6 to 8 week rehearsals of plays, even though I just finished directing one off Broadway. So and then I got a scholarship to go to Boston University. So I went to BU and I was there for a couple of years. And then I went to New York. I just went like I didn't want to be in college. They had cuts in the program. I'm like, I'm going to New York. And I
Mm.
was in New York and I did about 200 plays when I was in New York that time period. And
Ooh.
one of the plays ended up being 6 Degrees of Separation, which was off Broadway. And then they opened
Mhm.
up the Broadway house and I was an understudy and got in that. And that I was on Broadway for 2 years and then on the road for about a year and a half on the national tour. And that national tour got me to Los Angeles. So then after that, I spent 20 years in Los Angeles. And then the last 10 years of being there, I was going back and forth between Louisiana and Los Angeles because the tax credits really kind of kicked up around 2000, right after Katrina, 2006, 2007. And I ended up getting so much work down here. My wife is from Baton Rouge that I was like, I'm gonna move, So we moved our whole lives down to Louisiana right around 2015. Yeah, this will be 10, this May will be 10 years here. And I still have an apartment in New York that I've kept forever. And I still have a place that I stay in LA. So I'm tri-coastal. I used to be called Bayou Coastal because it was like LA, Louisiana. I was like, I'm Bayou Coastal, man. That's kind of but now most of my work is up in New York. So I just spent more of my time in New York. And Atlanta, like with the cool thing about same thing with like with Houston, it's like you're kind of in the middle. Like I'm 3 hours from LA, I'm 3 hours from New York, I'm 1 hour from Atlanta, and I'm,
Yeah.
2.5 hours from Chicago. So it's like I can kind of get, anywhere really easy. And also, I had been self-taping for the last 15 years, way before COVID. So I had like a 10-year for 10 years, I was self-taping way before it was industry standard. But although at the time that I started self-taping, it was people that were at higher levels that were they weren't going to come in and audition, but they'll put it on tape and they'll send it to you. And then you can decide if you want to have a meeting or make an offer. So it was really self-tapes were really kind of for higher level folks that didn't want to go through the audition process. And they were like, you don't need to meet me. Just let me show you what I want to do, and then we'll talk. So it was like it was used as a kind of like a bait and a calling card. And now it's like, I'm, and I've booked at this point conservatively well over $1 million off of dollars worth of work off of self tapes alone. So I don't meet the people till I get on set. And what's great about that is that then I share all that knowledge and information. I have 2,500 students all over the world in my on-camera workouts. And so I just share from my, experience of making lots of mistakes and figuring stuff out and trial and error. But also now I've coached, I don't know, 15,000 self tapes at this point, the last 10 years I've been coaching. So from watching other people's self tapes, from doing them myself, from working in multiple markets, even international, like I've done movies in Mexico City, I've done movies in Italy. So it's a matter of, I've learned a lot of stuff, and I'm in this kind of, having done this for a long time, that I call them in the service phase of my life. I'm just of being of service. I'm serving the material, I'm serving my students, and, in that process, everybody seems to kind of benefit. I'm not worried about my career and my, trajectory, or the things that I want to do seem to always work themselves out because I'm focused on giving and sharing information as opposed to I want or need things. So I also have a lot of very philosophical ideas about working from a place of generosity of spirit as opposed to working from a place of lacking and wanting and needs. I always get turned off by overly opportunistic people that are using other people to feel like they're going to get somewhere, as opposed to this is who I am and this is what I have to offer. Like you go to LA and they're like, oh, so what kind of car do you drive? Like like, okay, where do you like? I was in a bar. This is a great story. I was in a bar in LA at an event, and these two girls, very attractive. This one guy just want to come up and say, hey, can I buy you a drink? And they're like, well, we got 3 questions for you. He's like, to buy you a drink? And he's like, yeah. You're like, what kind of car do you drive? What do you do for a living? And where do you live?
Wow. Wow.
So what kind of car do you drive?
To buy
And so like just to buy them a drink. So he's like, well, I have a BMW. She goes, oh, that's nice. Wait, how old? How old's your car? That's the next question. And then she's like, so what kind of work do you do? Like, I'm a veterinarian. She goes, oh, I love animals. And where do you live? I live in Brentwood. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, you can buy us a drink. And I was just like, wait, whoa. You see how a gender in like you're like, we're gold diggers, and we don't even want to drink from somebody who's broke ass and has a shitty car. I'm sorry. I didn't ask you about swearing, but I do.
No. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the point is do you see how that's a thing? That's a real thing. But I mean, I don't see any value in any of that kind of relationship. I think the thing that is, I work with actors that kind of help them kind of build their career blueprint, and the first thing I start with, because I'm like Aristotle said, the key to all knowledge is to know thyself. So I start with what are the 10 to 30 things that make you different, special, or unique? What do you have to offer? Everybody wants something. They want something from directors. They want jobs. They want, agents. But what do you have to offer? Don't be, who the hell are you? That's what I need to know. And so I think what happens is I think people get lost in the wants and the needs without figuring out who they are and what they have to offer. See what I'm saying? So what they have to be of service to the writer, service to the business, as opposed to, well, what I'm going to level up. And I was like, okay, well, how are you going to, because I level across, and that's how I level up. I turn to my right or left, as opposed to, well, if I get this person, then this will get me here, and then that'll be, like that kind of strategy. I haven't seen that really be very successful.
Yeah.
Right.
I think,
Was
I
the
think
was with such a rich family history in the business, was that part of your inspiration, like, as far as when you were pursuing your dreams and goals?
yeah, I think it's very interesting. I found it a double-edged sword in a way. It cuts through a lot of stuff just because, like television has become incredibly important. I don't think my uncle ever, as a scientist, ever imagined the kind of impact that television would have. That people would stop their lives and like look at on the phone, like they're just. I don't think he ever believed, as a scientist creating this thing, that it would ever have the kind of impact it did. Watching, JFK get shot, watching Martin Luther King, like we saw that on television. We saw bombs going off. We saw the Twin Towers go off through television. So like I don't think he ever anticipated that. And why I say it's a kind of a double-edged in the sense that I think my father and my grandfather, because my grandfather's brother was the guy that like, helped start television. It's like it's kind of hard to it's kind of hard to live up to like how do you come, like these are men, these are they're competitive brothers. How do you compete with the dude that like created a television network? You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
so I think like in that regard, there's this feeling like I gotta live up or surpass or something. And I
Mhm.
and I've watched my dad kind of struggle with that a lot. Although my dad was a very big innovator, and I think that's what I took the most from that is rather there's three types of people. There's innovators, those who see opportunities and they really kind of just they take action and they go. And there's high risk to it, but there's usually great reward. And then there's slow starters where they kind of watch everybody. They're like, oh, well, let me watch what he does, and then I'm going to follow that. And they do fine, but they never really do as well. And then there's like laggards who just haters who just bitch and moan and complain about how they, I could have, should did, and I would have done this, and if I did this, and if I did, it's like woulda, shoulda, coulda. So it's like, so for me, I think the biggest thing I took up is innovation, is trying to pivot and see the next thing. Like I'm just starting to teach myself AI because I see how much time and energy it can save me in creating a pitch deck for a movie that I want to produce, or how I'm just even my stuff for my classes, how it can make it easier. So rather than be triggered and scared, it's going to take my job and it's going to change it. Like I'm like,
Mm,
rather than be reactive, I'm going to be proactive and I'm going to just pivot and embrace. Because as new things come in, we just embrace. There was a time where you called my house and there wasn't an answer machine. You weren't gonna get me.
yeah.
Then there was an answer machine, then there was a beeper,
Mhm.
then there was a cell
Mm,
phone. And everybody's like, each time these innovation came in, everybody's like, oh man, I've lost that sense of like, oh, that's your call. But so I think for me, the innovation part, the cautionary tale is trying to live up to uh, an expectation of something that that I think can make you suffer.
yeah.
And so I'm going, my journey, like you said, what's your journey? My journey is my journey. And I
Hmm.
think the hard part is we watch like an Instagram life, which is not life at all, like booked it. Well, what about the other 150 auditions you did where you didn't book it? You didn't go, didn't book it, got close, got a pin. I didn't book it, didn't. I mean, one of these days, I just want to put up like all on my Instagram going, didn't book this, didn't book that,
Yeah.
crickets, didn't like did the best work I've ever done. No one called me, no one cared, as opposed to I'm only showing you the highlights.
Yeah.
I feel like
Mhm.
that sets a really interesting falsehood, and also comparing yourself with other people's journey or successes. Other people's successes are not you didn't lose anything. There's
Mhm.
no, right? But I know when people see other people working or they booked, they start to feel bad. That's not the kind of message I want to send, or that's not the kind of message that I think is as positive as their intention may be.
Yeah. That's beautiful that you shared that as well too, because there's one point in time where I said that. So a few years ago, I did a Street Fighter 6 commercial, the video game, and that was like one of my biggest bookings first starting off out the gate, and I was like, whoa, and it was crazy, that I got that, and it was a beautiful story, crazy story and fun, beating Little Wayne and everything else. But then what I also told myself, what I wanted to share with others is that you don't know how many I had before I
You
got
get
that.
this, right, right.
And like I actually want to do a quick video of like, hey, look at all these 55, 70 plus that I missed out on, but I got that one and I kept going. And
That's right.
but you just keep on going and going. And
Right.
that's what I love about, getting to the next question, your on-camera workouts.
Yeah.
You repeating history, doing like your great uncle did, and helping out those, and like you said, build a cross and help you build the cross.
That's right.
And let's talk about, Monday Funday and your on-camera
Yeah.
workouts.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
which I
Yeah,
hate that
about
I missed the Elsbeth one. I was like,
that's
oh,
all right, dude. No, we're still going. We're still going
yeah,
for the month. We're all good. It's still
yeah,
happening.
yeah,
But the big thing is yeah, about 10 years ago, I started to teach and coach. And I
yeah,
was like, well, I'm not an acting teacher. I'm not going to try to do, purport to do something I don't know.
yeah.
I know how to self-tape. And I've had two incredible teachers, one of which is a guy named Tim Phillips. And you can get his book called Audition for Your Career, Not the Job. And
Mm.
you can get it on Amazon. It's Timpphillips. Ironically, I talked to him today. He's 82 years old. He's like the Sanford Meisner of auditions. Like that guy knows
Wow.
more about script analysis than anybody I've ever encountered in my entire 40 years. And he wrote this great book called Audition for Your Career, Not the Job, that I helped him to write and put together. And it's what's great about it is that there's so many pieces of gold that are in material. You just need to know, somebody needs to show you how to audition and how to find all that gold. And so I was auditioning off of instinct and what little technique I had. I didn't have a way in which to know what to look for when audition material came in. No one ever showed me that. So what I learned from him is how to be able to get material and turn it around and dissect it quickly and get it up on camera. That's the first thing. And the second thing was another teacher named Larry Moss, who is thanked for Michael Clark Duncan's Oscar on The Green Mile, for Hilary Swank, Helen Hunt. He coaches Leo periodically, so it's like he is to me the greatest living acting teacher right now. And he had a book called Intent to Live, which you can find on Amazon as well. And both of those books are kind of like they're right hand, left hand, they feed each other. So
Mhm.
learning, and Larry's book is about clear and specific intentions, is that we human beings don't do anything without an intention, whether it's deeply, deeply subconscious or like those girls in LA, overtly conscious. Like you can't even buy me a drink if you're not ring worthy. Like I'm not even gonna, there's no reason to get a free drink off of you if I don't get something from, right? So their agenda, their intention was very, very specific.
Mhm.
And so, about 10 years ago, I started to I go, well, wait a minute. I know how to self-tape. And I learned another thing, another tool, in another coach in LA, a woman named Taylor Loeb, and she runs a company called CCT, taping service and coaching. And so I would go to Tim Phillips' house. Lucky for me, he moved into a house across the street from my house when I was raising kids. I was like, all right, I'm gonna put the kids to bed and then I'm gonna go work on this audition, right? So he would get me to break down that audition. And then the next day I would go to Taylor's. I called it TNT, Tim and Taylor. It was like, ba-boom, because it was like 80% booking ratio. It was just like, bam. Everything I touched it was amazing because I would learn how to break the material down. And then I would go over to Taylor and Taylor like, okay, great. I see what you did. But now bring that eye line here when the person comes in, come in, have a seat. Take your eye line from the back of the room to right here when they're sitting down. Okay, now we can talk. Come on in, have a seat. And then she taught me how to like work the frame and work the camera work. So I had that combination of, I call it the Holy Trinity. I got Larry, I got Tim, I got Taylor. I'm putting it all together. And then I was like, well, I'm only going to speak from my experience and what I know. So about 10 years ago, I was doing Deepwater Horizon here in New Orleans. They put me up in this nice house. And so I started teaching, it was August of 2015.
Mm.
And I started doing my workouts live. And I would give people material. They would come into like a real audition. They do their first take. I give them a note or adjustment, just like a live audition. They would do a second take, and then we would watch playback. Then we watch and say, "Hey, that was good. This is where you could be strong." And that's how it really kind of started. And then I started doing them live wherever I was working. So I did 3 months of doing Spencer Confidential up in Boston. Before that, I did Patriots Day. So I started working with people in Boston when I did Patriots Day, and then I followed it up for 3 months up there. And I was already up there. So I was like, I had a big old hotel room, and I'm like, let's get 8 to 10 people in my hotel. Like, let's
Yeah.
just do it here. Like Netflix is playing for this nice suite. I was like, it's just me in here. Let's just make it happen. So I did up in Boston. And then when I went to LA, I would do a class. When I was up in New York, my apartment in New York, I'd rent a space and stuff. And so it kind of built. And then when COVID hit, like everybody came looking for me because I was like,
Mhm.
it was like I was the guy that had water in the desert. Like,
Yeah.
everybody trying to figure out these self tapes and I did 18-hour days. I did 20-hour days. I was doing everything manually. I was like emailing people material and then I had like 20 people in class and I could barely get through the first, like let's just work the first moment. Like, like I was just and literally, and then finally, I have an assistant now, Earl. Like he was just great in automating my process, putting everything online, setting up the Zoom links, people paying through an online thing. I was doing Venmo to everybody each time. I mean, I literally worked 7 days a week, 20-hour days, and it was very humbling because there was so many people that no one was working.
Yeah.
People wanted to do was to train. I got up in the morning, I changed my underwear, I changed my shirt, I went to the back of the house, I signed up online, and I like worked 18, 20-hour days, and but from that, one of the things that I started to see is that actors were looking for, they wanted more because the auditions weren't happening. So I was like, all right, let's do a thing called Monday Funday where that people can create original content for themselves. So it's like,
Yeah.
all right, I'm gonna give you a writing assignment. It's a blind date. It's a two-character scene. Give me 5 pages. Go ahead and write it. And from that became this thing called Scotch Please, which is a short film. It's been playing all over the world and winning awards all over. So from that little idea came something bigger. And now we're at the point where we were doing it every 2 weeks, but now I got the demand with so much material and actors are just dying to read. And I also didn't want money to be the issue. So I make it a pay what you can, pay what you think it's worth. Now, the writers usually come through and pay more because they really want their material read. We read 15 pages of a feature, we read 20 pages of a pilot. We do it in a 3 hour period of time, even though the last two have been 4.5 hours and 4 hours, which that's because we're doing them every 2 weeks now, and I'm like pushing all the material. Like, no, no, no. Now we're going back to weekly. So
Yeah.
the big announcement here, you're hearing it first. We're going to go back to weekly Monday Fun Days because it's so much material, and actors are just craving to act. And as
Mhm.
you experience, like in a 3 hour period of time, you may read like 12 roles in three
Yeah.
hours cold, like you're reading it for the first time. Sometimes people read material ahead of time, but mostly people are reading it for the first time in there. And then you're able to give writers real notes, not about writing, because they don't tell you how to act, but you give them
Mhm.
about characters or ideas, and the writer goes, "Oh, that's great." And then they're going to go back and rewrite that, and they come back. And so in that process now, we have about 50 features, about 25 TV pilots. There are ones that started as a pilot and now we've already got to 8 episodes. One that was an epic mini series that could easily be 3 2 hour show, like that's on its second 2 hour thing. Um, and so what's great about it is and now all of a sudden we're one of my projects got greenlit with Dimension Films. That's with a $4 million budget shooting in London. Right now, Matt Damon is reading the script, which is amazing to us.
Yes.
Another project has already got Oscar and Golden Globe and Emmy winning actors attached to it. Even in this developmental stage, they love the script because we spend a lot of time, like I did in the theater world, really getting the material as strong as it can be. And that's
Mhm.
that's a twofold way in which that I work, which is my job as an actor to actor coach is really to get actors prepared for the level of opportunity that they dream and aspire to.
Yeah.
And there is no luck. I think there's fortune that's created from real sincere effort. I think that's how I create. I believe in fortune because luck is this very like intangible thing, but fortune is created forged by effort
Yeah.
and time and money and investment. And so I've found that actors who spend their time, money, and energy focusing on just getting a little bit better consistently do very well. And so, as opposed to, I have a lot of people that come into my class and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's great. No, I got that. That's good. That's all I need." And I'm like, "That's all you need? I don't think so. I think you
Mm,
need a lot more than that." But it's not about, I run my class very differently than other classes. It's a drop in, drop out. It's not about trying to have them commit to 8 to 12 weeks and outrageously priced. And if you don't show up to class, you lose your money. And I make money off that seat. Like I don't, every little thing that I learned about other classes that I hated as a working actor. And my
mm,
definition of a working actor is anybody who's working towards being an actor.
mm,
Being employed is a byproduct of being a working actor, but it is not a definitive 100% definition in my book. So everybody's a working actor and I treat them as such. And so sometimes people got to work. Like
yeah,
working actors got to have a survival job. So you
mm,
can't make class because of that. Reschedule or I'll send you a credit. I'm like, I'm not going to keep your money and then take that seat. Just, I can't do it.
yeah,
It's what other people did to me when I was like, I got an acting job, and my acting teacher was like, "Oh yeah, well, you weren't in class." I was like, I was working. I'm in class, so I get work. Now you're going to penalize me because I'm working? Like,
mm,
and you already sold that seat to somebody else. I'm like, you're not like, why are you doing that? That ain't right. So for me, I feel like it's not a great business model, but it is karmically it works for me, you know?
yeah, yeah, and that's yeah.
I love the Funday Mondays. I've had a chance to participate in them. And just I love how diverse it is. You don't just get one genre of scripts. You get to really, flex your muscle in different areas.
That's right. No, yeah, what you have in like this last one was like half the cast was Irish, Scottish, English, and then the other cast was like the 1800s of the Geechee, learning people speaking Geechee, and they like, and then the other one is a straight out Danny McBride type comedy, which is just politically incorrect. You know, I'm like, so it's like all in one 3 hour session. So, and that's what I wanted to keep it that way is to go. We're also going to move into a new thing that we're announcing, which is we're going to do read alouds of full features and full pilots. But I want to keep Monday Funday because, like you just said, it's like you have three different writers that have three totally different ways of doing it. If I just have one person, then that one writer benefits and not everybody benefits. And the actors are only doing one reading. So we're going to call these Tuesday read alouds. It's a new thing my assistant and I talked about today that will roll out today. I just feel like if and I found that there's some actors that don't have it to help
Mm,
financially support it. Writers do, some actors do. They feel it's valuable to them. So it's like this is like I learned a lot in this class. I learned a lot about myself as an actor. So why don't I commit to, like pay it forward for somebody else to do it? So I've never made it as a for-profit venture, and I never will. It's really all about covering my expenses of like internet and Instagram and my assistant and Zoom and
mm,
all that other kind of stuff. But for the most part, I feel it's like, and then now, I have enough projects that I can start turning to some large agencies and say, just like you said, I don't have just one story. I got a
yeah.
3 episode miniseries of this. I got one in the 1800s. I got this other one's a sci-fi thriller. I got a romantic like I got, what do you want? Like, and as somebody who's an actor who has produced and wants to produce things, it really works for everybody, and I don't necessarily have to have myself attached to particular projects as an actor or producer. Most of the time people want me on that as an advocate because we started it together. Like this Fourth and Long is like the writer turned to me today. He's like, "You're our executive producer," because the fact that we went from pilot to 8 episodes has everything to do with our input, but it's the ideas and the creativity of the other actors that have helped that script become what it is. I'm just really moderating this and kind of serving the writers and serving the actors to have and to know that every Monday you have a place that you can go act
Yeah,
for free for $10, for $20, 3 hours of your time. You can go do 10 characters in 3 hours. Like that's valuable. That's worth something,
it
and
is.
you're helping writers. So
Yeah,
it's for me, it's just a win-win,
yeah. It really is. It really is, and it's so much fun. Yeah, so much fun diving into these characters and everything.
Yeah.
Hey, so I wanted to kind of touch a little bit on, how you felt with working with your children on set. Like, as an actress, I've worked on set once with my two twin daughters, and it was just amazing. So how was it for you?
It is incredible. It's to the point where this is a conversation that I had with my son today was just to go, having spent like we started the Gemstone journey 6 years ago.
Hmm.
We got the first season in and then COVID hit. So then we lost a year. And then we had these two strikes. We had the Writers Guild strike and then we had the actors strike. And it was just like, so I mean, the fact that we got to continue this was a miracle. But I kept reminding my son, I go, dude, we're on the same TV show together. Like and I remind him like I got cast first. You earned your role. Like they didn't know who you were. He goes, yeah, but I'm a gemstone and you're a friend of a gemstone. So like he kind of throws some shade my way every once in a while. And I'm like, so, but the joy for us is look, there's a cool, I don't know if you saw there's a little clip on about Jerry Jones, because you guys are, even
Mhm.
though you're Houston, you're probably not jealous. I'm not a Cowboys fan, but let me tell you something.
My favorite guy.
Yeah, no, like
We're not Cowboys fans either.
I was going to say, not America's. I don't know what America you're talking. Maybe the America that you're supposed to be making great while everybody's losing their life savings. But
Yeah.
yeah, I said it. And so the deal is, so, uh, but Jerry Jones does this monologue in Landman, and he
Mhm.
Yeah.
and he talks about how his goal was to spend as much time with his daughter without kind of like smothering her. So he bought
Mm.
land that then had oil on it, and that oil gave him the money to be able to buy the Dallas Cowboys. And the Dallas Cowboys is a family business. He runs it with his children. And the reason he did that is because I saw so many business people becoming successful by abandoning and leaving their kids, right? Or having to live up to something. Sound familiar? Live up to some
Mm.
expectation, like without getting into too much details, I actually worked for Trump. So I know him and I know his family and I know the
Mm.
expectations that his father had on him that were unconditional, that were all conditional. He
Yeah.
would be a different person if his father just loved him conditionally or did it for the right reasons. And so
Wow.
Jerry Jones pointed out how his intention was to spend as much time with his children while he was alive. So he bought those businesses in order for all of us to work together. And I was just like, when I saw that, I was like, and I spent this last 6 years and at least 4 Father's Days with my son on the same TV show together, being taken care of very well by HBO. We can go out to dinner together. We can enjoy this experience together. We can be on set. We can create together. We never had scenes together, which like is still a little bit of a regret. We were in scenes, but we never went toe to toe, which I would have they kept promising us, but it never happened.
Yeah.
Point is, the long-winded answer is that I've realized that that's what I want to do with the rest of the next phase of my career is I want to work with and create as much time with my kid as I can on set. Because the two places that I'm most happy and comfortable are with my family and when I'm on set. And if I can do both, gravy,
Yeah.
like,
Is it easy
so,
for your kid to, grasp the things that you're trying to teach them? It's sometimes working with your kid is a little bit different because you
oh, yeah,
teach them
no, I
things
know.
and, and
Like
then
I
you kind
go,
of let them, make their own
yeah,
way. It's like,
yeah. No, and there is this, and how old are your kids? How old are your kids?
well, I won't get my age up here now,
No, but
but
they're younger, right? Yeah.
I have twin daughters that are 10.
Yeah, they're younger. So my point
Yeah.
is that, it's all depending on where you're at. Like I think in the beginning, my son didn't want to hear anything that I had to say after even
Mhm.
with all my
Mm.
experience. He there is this sense, and especially when you're getting like in the teens, and that was where he kind of came into this, is like in the teen years, is you want them to grow to you want their own individualization. You want them to figure it out on their own. Uh,
Mhm.
I still kind of bust his chops about, hey man, you had 7 days, and you're
Mm.
gonna look at the material on the seventh day. You never get 7 days. Like he has something now. It's like it's 2 pages, bro. I know it's not due for another 10 days, but I go, you can knock that out tomorrow. Like why you waiting?
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody else can put their work in front of you while you're trying to have a great weekend at college. I mean, I get it. You're at college. So yeah, so for me, yeah, I think now I let him ask me if he wants help. I let him dictate that. He knows that I'm here to support. I know that my number one job, is to love them unconditionally, and it's really unconditional, and to support them unconditionally, even though I may disagree with ideas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's not my job. Somebody else can, my job is to love and support them unconditionally. And
Yeah.
that's the deal. Now, if I mean, I would love to, and I've tried to kind of exert my, my skills and my, knowledge and wisdom. But I did teach him some really important things on set in terms of getting on set, treating everybody with a tremendous amount of respect.
Mhm.
Even if you don't remember their name, you get your phone on your notes and this is the costume person. This is Steven. You say, hi, Steven, how are you? Get people's names. If your clothes were hung up, just like at home, if your clothes were hung up in your dressing room when you got there, you hang those clothes back up when you leave. They're here before you and after you. They're not here to clean. I see people leave clothes on the floor in a dressing room those clothes were hung up when they got there. So, you know, those kind of things are things that I impart with my kid. But I think those are just basic things. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, common courtesy and respect.
Mhm.
Um, but it's a joy. Like I don't that's all I want to do. But I also kind of go, I can't smother him with what I
Right.
want. You know what I mean? So I get smart and I find feature scripts that got really good roles in it for him. Like, and a good little role for me and a good little role for him. And he gets to be in the movie and I get to be in it. And his buddy gets to direct it. And we get some famous people to come be in it, like that are really amazing people and actors. And so that's the plan, is that from that experience, I just want to create stuff with my kid as much as he wants to be with me, because that's all I'm going to get.
No,
So,
that's awesome. That's awesome. Now, I want to get into, before we get into more of your projects, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Everybody's been talking about Jake Gyllenhaal and Denzel on Broadway, and
yeah.
you've actually been able to direct on Broadway. Let's dive
Yeah.
into this. Let's tell
I'll
us more about
quantify
that.
that. It's off Broadway.
off Broadway.
Yeah, I
Okay.
didn't. I've been on Broadway,
Okay.
and basically, just so you guys know, it's based on theater size. It's not
Yeah.
like if how big the theater is. 1,200 above is Broadway. So
Mhm.
anything under 1,200 is off Broadway. Anything under this is off. So
Gotcha.
it's not physically. Everybody thinks it's because it's on and off. Because Lincoln Center is not on Broadway at all, but it has a Broadway house and off Broadway. So point being is that yes, it was off because it was like a 90 seat house. But
Mm.
yeah, I started to direct. There's a cool thing that I learned on again. There's some cool stuff I learned on Instagram with all those hours of my life. There's a thing called the misogi. It's a
Mm.
Japanese philosophy about how to live a full and rich life. And what they purport is that pick one life-changing event for the year. Pick something that you've never done before, then make that your one defining thing that you do for the year. Like, I'm going to do this thing, and that, like, I've never done it before. I'm scared. I feel like I'm a fraud, and I went through that in this whole process. Even though I've produced movies, I've done 200 plays. I know what I'm doing. I never directed a play before, start to finish, from development, giving notes to the writer, to rehearsals, to tech rehearsals, to sound cues, to costumes, to everything,
Mm.
having that input. So that's my Misogi this year. And I did it in the first quarter of the year. So I was like, now what? And the second part of the Misogi is pick 6 mini adventures for the year. Every other
Mm.
month, pick an adventure. And it could be I'm going to just get on a train and go to, I don't know where I'm going, or I'm going to go hiking or I'm going to do something outdoors, or do something that's an adventure that you never did before. And then the third part of it is pick a habit that you'd like to change. Like, I want to sleep more, I want to eat better, I want to exercise more, whatever it may be. And really stick to that for the year. And by the end of the year, you've had this one defining thing of like, man, I did that one thing I never thought I would be able to do.
Mhm.
I've had these 6 mini adventures with my family or my kids or other people that I was like, I had this adventure that I'll never forget, right? And then there's a habit that's probably not going to serve me over time. I need to kind of shed that habit. And then the next year, I'm back at it. I'm going to pick another life defining event, and I'm going to pick another 6 adventures. So really, as you're when you as the years go on, you have, you look at your life and you're like, yeah, accomplishment and money and jobs. Like, no, no, no. I did this life-defining thing,
Mhm.
took a chance and a risk of something I never did before. I had these 6 adventures that were like, I never like excited. And then I had this thing where like, I'm really glad that I'm starting to take that a little more. So it's not a New Year's resolution. It's a lot more than that, you
Right.
know? And so now I'm getting a little cocky because I'm like, well, I did the directions. Like now I did that in the first quarter of the year, and this is still show business. So
About
I
a
run
year
my
left.
business like an annual business. So by April 1, March 31st, I did that. So now I'm like, okay, what's the life-changing event that I'm going to do for the next 3 months? I may do 4 a year,
Yeah.
because it's from these experiences of doing things out of the box and scaring yourself. It's like there was a thing where someone said that thing that you should be doing that scares
Mm.
the hell out of you, you should be doing that.
Mhm.
You
I
should be
like
doing,
that.
you know,
Masogi.
yeah,
Wait,
it's called the Musogi. Yeah.
Okay, I said it right. Masogi. Okay.
Musogi. I'll send you a thing on Instagram on it. Like it's a guy that's a great innovator who was a musician who actually wrote the music for the Lakers theme song. He was
Mhm.
just a struggling musician, and he just like, yeah, man, all right, I'll submit this thing. Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. And that becomes like, and then
Yeah.
he started, a jet company, like a private jet. Like but he learned this thing about the mini adventures from his friend who like he and his kids, they go like, we went up to we went to Alaska, we went hiking, we went camping in Alaska, like 30 degree to go. Like that's a, scary adventure. But the point is, it's an adventure. And he's like, he calls it David's rule. He's like, so he's been living this life for like a long time. And I felt like, especially with how much trigger and reactive that we have about what's happening in the world,
Mhm.
the lesson should be, this is even more reason why we should be living a fuller life and not being bogged down by these things that don't matter. What other people think don't matter. You
I
know,
love
what you
that.
what you do with your life matters.
Right.
I love
Yes, I
that.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's not a matter of being disrespectful or like, I'm not, I don't care what people think. It's like I'm not saying from that point of view. I'm
Right.
not I'm not allowing other people to dictate, I'm a Rick Rubin guy. I'm not allowing other people to
Mm.
dictate my art, what I do.
Mm.
Either you get me or you don't get me, you
Yeah.
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not that people don't get you, it's that maybe they've never had the opportunity to really get to know you as
Correct.
well. Maybe those chances are really, were small or slim.
Right.
And once they get to know you, they'll be able to have a better perception of you. But I'm not going to let your perception of me now change who or where I'm going.
Correct.
You got to just keep going.
Yeah, well, that's why, when I'm doing career blueprints with actors, I really have them hone in on what are the things that make them different, special, unique. And
Hmm.
then from that list of 10 to 30, like what's the 10 superpowers? What are the things that they would say at your funeral, what they would say at your wedding, at your
Mm.
30th birthday party, at your 50th birthday party? Like what are the things that are uniquely you? And
Hmm.
then I think it's our job as artists, as storytellers, to bring those things to light. What I always enjoy, it's like you guys are just getting to know me. It's like I got so much more to share that you wouldn't think that it's all happening in this body. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because people have perceptions about everybody because they're all worried, like so I feel like it, and there's also an interesting too that you make a point, which is I
Yeah.
also know my energy, and I know sometimes I got to read the room.
Mm.
Like I'm a light, like I'm a light. I draw light, but
Yeah.
I'm also people reflect back. They're not ready for what I have to lay down. So
Mm.
sometimes I have to dim my light a little bit, read
Hmm.
them before I can kind of make
Yeah.
myself known. So, like
Hmm.
there are times where I run across some people that are very, very dark
Yeah.
and they really like they can't deal with my energy at all. You know
Yeah.
Mm.
what I mean? Like at all. And I'm like, that's cool, man, because that's your thing, and I get it. So there's times where I kind of have to I'm being mindful, respectful, but the fun joy for me is to go, I'm not done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I've been doing this a long time, and I have friends that are like bitter and angry, and I got, different representation is all triggered. The business and condition, this happening. There's all reactive. They're all reactive. And
Yeah.
I go, yeah. And also, again, I've been also a Buddhist of 37 years, and
Hmm.
found that to be an incredible way in which to live my life. And again,
Yeah.
it's not necessarily just my own philosophy. I've had born again Christian friends who really live in God's example,
Yeah.
example, and they manifest that in their lives. It's not just philosophy, they live it. So I never have an issue with that of like, as long as you're living, your greatest self and how you go about doing that. And faith
Right.
is a very, very deep component of that. I chant twice a day. I have friends who are Muslim. They get up in the morning, sunrise. I mean, it's that devout commitment.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's like, how do you manifest that faith? That's what's fun about gemstones is like, they manifest it in hypocrisy and money and killing people. Like, they justify their shit all the time.
Yeah.
Also, like the hilarious thing is, I was talking to Danny McBride about this, is like, why did like the Christian right should have shut our show down like from day, like those mega churches, like Joel Osteen should have came, like his congregation should have came at us and go, you can't talk about us. And this, no, here's the interesting thing. They go, you're talking about us. We love the show. And I was like,
Yeah.
penises, we're killing people in the name of Christ. Like, we're the ass kickers for Christ. And they're like, are you not watching this show? And they're like, yeah, but you do the Sunday lunches after church. That's us. You get us. And I'm
Yeah.
like, wow, man, you're so caught in you drank that Kool-Aid so much. You're drinking that orange Kool-Aid, and you're like, hey, here come Kool-Aid. Like, you don't care. Like that we're not making fun. We're
Yeah.
putting fear, like the storyteller's job is to put as Shakespeare said, to hold as twere a mirror to Nate. Like, look at this.
Hmm.
Beauty, all the ugliness, hypocrisy, the hate, the love, the possibility, the injustice.
Hmm.
Like, our job is just to draw focus to it.
Yeah.
But if you derive that it's like, oh man, you're talking about it, like we're I'm like, wow.
It was just
Yes.
too, it was like,
You know what I
wait,
mean? Like,
you
you're like,
happy about
wow,
it.
man.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm glad you brought that up because we were just about to get into that question right there. I was like, let me get on the phone and call Chad
Yeah,
real quick and say,
give it up.
what is going on, man?
What ass do I need to kick in the name of the Lord? What kind of, like, if you're without spoiling it, if you're an opposing church and you're across the street, I'm a
Yeah.
Molotov cocktail your ass for the
Yeah,
for the
dude.
name in the name of Christ. Praise,
It is.
praise be. Don't
It
don't don't
is,
mess with our till. Don't fuck with our money.
dude. It is so.
The Lord wants us in a lifestyle of which that you are going to pay for.
Yes.
But don't mess with my money. This is
No.
so different than any drug war. Don't be on my corner.
He's locking the
I mean,
doors.
I'm from Chicago. I'm from I'll let Ben tell. I'm from about the way. I'm leaving with something. Do you know what I'm saying? I was
And
born and
then-
raised in the projects in Cabrini Green, only one of the white families. I'm like, no, I'm leaving with something. Right? So
Dude.
the joy for me is like,
Yeah.
your show is so good when a writer creates in season one that some of the family members stole money and they hid it up in the ceiling of the kindergarten thing at the church.
Yes.
And then a year later, folks in Houston, a year later, I don't know if you saw that story about Joel Osteen.
Yes, we
They found
did.
$1 million in his
Yes.
bathroom.
Yes, we
That
did.
he had an insurance policy against. The insurance policy is like, yeah, you're paying that money back. It's like, no, son.
Oh,
Right?
man.
So you got to know you're on the cusp of telling truths when someone creatively makes it up that they stole money from the till and they stored it in the ceiling space, and then a year later it's a true story. It happened.
I had something to do with this, maybe.
You're on the button. Like, how would they know?
Dude,
How would they know? They just made that up.
James, I'm telling you, man, like shout out to the writers of the show, to you, everybody else is so smart.
It's
and
the
it
writers,
just,
man. It's Danny McBride. It's Jeff. It's everybody.
Yeah.
It's like you're telling the truth, or you're putting truth to power when you create when you create it, like when it's just creative.
Yeah.
And then life shows you, life and art is the same. And you go, oh no, we're on it. Like we're on it.
Yeah.
And Danny went so far as to like, oh yeah, I thought we'd be banned too. He goes, but then the church called and they want to give us their church for free. And HBO's like, yeah, they'll sign releases and they want to give us the choir for free. They want their choir to perform for free.
Okay.
I was like, yeah, man, like we're good. Like just sign the waivers. So they're getting like free churches, free choirs, just because people were like, I want to be part of the show. And I was like, do you not watch almost
I'm
every
not
other
watching.
episode this season has some waving like there's a penis in every episode almost this season.
Please watch the show again before
Yeah,
you
you're like,
start
I'm
off to
like,
this.
I
Oh
think
my-
you might have missed that part. You're like, are you hide your kid's eyes or something? I'm like, So
my goodness.
the joy is, and I don't want it to be over, but it's not
Yeah.
really over. It's the beginning of a lot of relationships, that we've built from that with them. This one, like one of the shows, one of the things you read in there is totally perfect for them. So like we're now creating material for them to kind of build that. I may share the script with Danny that I'm producing with Kelton in it, that I'm in it as well. Like
Mhm.
just to kind of, it's a relationship that we built and that we want to
Yeah.
kind of continue. Who knows where it goes? I know that they have another series that they want to do. They've been trying to get a remake of Smokey and the Bandit going on with Danny
Oh my God.
and I'm like, yeah, man.
Yes.
Smokey and the Bandit?
Yeah.
Please.
Old school. If you know that movie, it's old school. It was like a Burt Reynolds, like,
Yeah.
and Jackie Gleason is like, the sheriff, and is like, John Goodman could do that tomorrow. Like,
Yes. Exactly.
like,
Yes. That's
oh,
straight
man,
up.
let's go. So it's yeah, it's an interesting time right now.
Yeah.
I always say to everybody, it's like, no, don't ever let anybody disrespect you as a storyteller.
Mhm.
And I know there's a tendency sometimes to kind of hate on actors or even family members and friends that don't understand what you're doing,
Mhm.
why it's an important part of your life. Yeah, you're not making money. Oh, you're doing that acting thing again. How's that paying off? Like all the hate, and I'm just like, wait, listen out for a second.
Yeah.
The first communication between human beings were storytellers.
Yes.
Before there weren't even words. They would have grunts and they would get rocks and stones and they would tell the stories of the human beings that were before us. They weren't even words that existed. Word didn't exist then. It was, and they're talking, the sun came down and this and the animals went like, so that's the most original form of communication between human beings.
Yeah.
Us actors, writers, our directors are part of this lineage of telling the story of we are the 21st century storytellers.
Yeah.
Yes, I get about likes and I get I get the commerce of it and I get the, people are doing it for attention and not to tell their story. But so I say there's a tendency to kind of shit on actors or shit on the people that are going on this journey, because we don't make money at it sometimes, and you do 150 job interviews and you get maybe one. Like what crazy person will go on 150 jobs each time and give their effort every single time without being angry and bitter or giving up for that, like you said, for that one gig. But it's like, I think before there were billionaires and before there were politicians and before there were, tech people and before there was, all these doctors and lawyers and people in positions of power, was the storyteller that told the story of the human beings before us. We wouldn't have known about the world if it wasn't for the storytellers.
Mm-hmm.
The irony is that when there's a worldwide pandemic and everybody's stuck indoors, what are they doing? They're listening to music. They're watching television. They're ravenous for a story.
Yeah.
They were so ravenous, they ate up billions of hours of content. They were like, people were like, oh man, we got to feed this.
Yeah.
Getting back to it's like, man, people are dying for new stories, man. I burnt out on this show. I binge watched that. I went through a bill. So at the most crucial time when the world is stuck indoors, what do they need? They need us, man. They need
Mm-hmm.
us storytelling. So don't be dissing me.
Yeah.
What kind of movies you make? It's like, oh, you do extra work? And I was like, yeah, okay. I was on
Mm-hmm.
a plane. This one guy said, you look really familiar. And I was like, yeah, I get that a lot. And he goes, "Are you my kid's soccer coach?" And I was like, "No, no." And he goes, "We did that conference together?" I was like, "No, no, I'm an actor." Oh, anything I would have seen. I was like, "Yeah." And I give him like a short list. I'm like, Dallas Buyers Club, Jurassic World,
Mm-hmm.
and then I gave him like three or four. And the guy goes, "Speaking parts."
Like what?
Say what now? I was like, "Oh, well, what kind of work do you do?" "Well, I'm a lawyer, mergers, acquisitions, corporation, blah, blah, blah." And I go, "Oh, so you get coffee for everybody down at the office?
Mm.
You take those papers down to the courthouse and file that for everybody to get everybody's donut order?"
Mm.
That's pretty much what you just said to me. You
Yeah,
basically, you're an actor and like, I'm at the lowest part of the totem pole, you know what I mean? And then the guy didn't talk to me for the rest of the flight. But I was like, man, don't be disrespecting me, bro.
don't disrespect the art,
Like,
man.
a real man applies for 150 jobs and still is a real man, even if he doesn't get one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's not for everybody. When 2008 hit and people losing jobs in their 40s, it's like, man, I'm unemployed all the time.
Yeah.
Lost a sense of who I am because I don't have a job. Shit. Like
Thank
that, I don't
you.
have a job all the time. You know what I mean?
And that's the question
You know
that
what I mean?
everybody always asks you. Tell them, I'm an actress or I'm a model. Oh, what magazines you're in, or oh, what speaking part? Like,
And you go to like the lowest, like porn. Do you do porn? I was like, no, no.
Mhm.
But then but so it's an easy target. But the biggest thing is but you need us.
Yes, you do.
We weren't the essential workers like you wanted during COVID, like a nurse or a doctor. But we sure were essential when you had to fucking deal with your kids that you were ignored, where you had to sit and
Mm-hmm.
watch TV with them and have
Yep.
dinner with them because you're stuck in the same damn house because
Mm-hmm.
you can't leave.
Yeah, watching cartoons
Oh,
and shit.
we're essential now.
I mean, they were finding movies that we didn't even know
Right.
existed. Like,
Look,
where you ever heard this movie from?
absolutely. Look, there
Mm-hmm.
was a cool thing that Peter Berg did with his son during COVID. Because his son is now a director and creates documentaries and stuff, but all during COVID because Peter Berg is just a huge cinephile and loves movies and loves directing. They literally created a list of they watched like 300 movies during COVID. Like they were two,
Mm.
three movies a night. So he got like a whole film school and they go back and forth. I love this one and that. Like, so they're like, like my son and I do that because I used to be a DJ. My son and I do that with music. I'm like, oh man, have you heard this thing? And they go, oh, no, I like this one. What about this? I'm like, I'm not crazy about. So like, they all kind of come around after a while. But like using that time, I just think being an artist and a storyteller is so important.
Yeah.
And it's an honor, it's a privilege, it's a calling. It's not for everybody. It's not for the faint of heart, you
Yeah.
know?
I
And I
agree,
could do other
man.
things, done other things, and my sisters have become multimillionaire, very successful, people. But it's like I could have done that at any point in time. I just never found any joy in it. There was just work. It just never felt as great as being able to create a human being,
Mm-hmm. I
tell a
agree.
story.
I totally agree with you. I'm sorry. Quick question before I toss the next topic to Shay.
Yeah.
Did you just say you was a DJ?
Uh-huh.
You really should talk to a friend of ours by the name of Diallo Riddle. I'm pretty sure you
Yeah.
heard the name.
Yeah.
He's DJ too. I think you two should talk to each other.
Well, the cool thing about the DJ story for me, and I got to get back to it. It's sitting over there collecting dust over the last 3 years. As a kid in Chicago, I created a one-man show called My Life as a DJ.
Yeah.
Because when I was a kid, when I was 10 years old, I learned how to play house music from Larry Levan, who invented house music. I was that white
What?
boy that pulled records for the brothers all over the place. So it got me to New York. I pulled records at Studio 54, the last summer of Studio 54. When I got to New York in terms of Survival Job, Limelight, Palladium, Danceteria, Frankie Knuckles, Little Louis Vega, Jelly Bean Benitez, who was Madonna's producer. So it's a little bit of the Forrest Gump. Like I was that
Yeah.
dude, I was here, I was on the lawn. I'm like, like I'm the Forrest Gump of actors, but I was the Forrest Gump of the DJ world from the club scene, pretty much from like I have to say, so that was 70, that would be 75. It was all around 78,
Mhm.
78, 79.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
remember having because my dad had a record collection around 1977. So like Star Wars was happening, but like the disco era was like 78, 79.
Yeah.
And that's when things kind of, and that got me into like 85. And I played up until I was playing music up until the 90s, like early 90s. So then
Oh, yeah.
interesting is though, like I have this incredible collection. Most of which I've sold because I had like number 4, number 3, and number 8 of Madonna's first album because
Yeah.
they were all numbered and for all the clubs because Jelly Bean printed out 20 of them, or we burned 20. And so I sold those at a very nice profit when I was like trying to move. Like I was like, I don't need all these. I got these two. I'm good. So
Yeah.
I've had incredible kind of collection. But what's interesting is I go back and I look at it as like all my vinyl stopped at 92. It's like when I went to LA and I was like, nah, it stopped. So
Yeah.
like I've been wanting to go back, but I'm like, man, it's hard storing these records, man. I've carried those crates and cabs and everywhere. But what
Yeah.
was beautiful about the DJ story, and then I might get back to it again. I might even have my son do it and kind of me play my dad in it now. Was that it was the earliest. I was 5 years old, and my dad was a traveling businessman, and my parents had just got divorced, and we lived in a really tougher area than Cabrini Green. It's now called it's called the Juneway Jungle. It's right off the Howard Street L in Chicago. And even to this day, I brought my son back there and we like turned a corner. I was like, shit, we ain't gonna make we ain't gonna make it to the next. There were people in the street.
Yeah.
We're not making it to the end of this block.
Uh-uh.
Like, oh,
Uh-uh.
I've made a huge mistake here, and I just
Yeah.
stayed quiet, chilled, and I was, hey man, let this guy go through. And I was like, okay. And I was like, I mean, literally, and then we go around the corner, it's like a police car, and the lights are on, the doors are open. I was like, there was some active shit, and I go, this neighborhood has never gotten better because people want this neighborhood to stay like this. This is what
Yeah.
was fucked up about it,
Yeah.
And so, but my dad was away, and I remember he would put he was traveling overseas, and the superintendent's like mother was like my babysitter, and she like smoked cigarettes. She was just a drunk and she just smelled nasty. And uh I played a song for her and she started to cry. And
Mm.
it was Frank Sinatra's Summer Wind. And she goes, come dance with me. She's all like nasty, like just drunk and nasty. And she explained that her son, who had died in Vietnam, she danced with her son to that song and he had just died.
Yeah.
And so like a little before that. And so this was like 1970. Yeah, it's 1970. And so I just was like in awe of the fact that I played this song and it took that woman to a place and it made me feel like I could have an impact on people. It was like, everybody has their aha. When I interview people, I'm always like, what was that first thing that made you realize you want to do this? But I think even then, when I put that song on and it made her think of her son, that she lost.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, I'm a 5-year-old kid in the middle of this divorce, but I can affect people. I
Yeah.
can I can play this thing and I can have an impact. Like I may be caught between my parents like a little pawn, but it's like I have a really great deal of power that I can say
Mm.
or do something that it can affect someone. And
Mhm.
man, that changed things for me.
Yeah.
And then I had other moments like that really kind of like, oh no, this is what I'm supposed to do.
So you kind of knew you were the light, like you felt like I'm the light early, like really early.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that at that time, my parents were acting like children and I was 5. So I just
Mm.
moved into being an adult. It's
Beautiful.
interesting because I had this conversation with my oldest, and my oldest like, well, I always imagined your childhood like such and such a thing. I guess you had to be the adult when everybody else was the child. And I was like, baby,
Mm.
from the time I was 5, it was like everybody like there was a childhood, there was some stuff there, but there were
Yeah.
a lot of very adult situations and very volatile, violent, and scary things
Yeah.
that just moves you into. But you're right. You discover, and may we all find this, no matter what your calling is. We're here for for a very finite period of time.
Yeah.
But we can have an infinite kind of impact. I go back to that old like This Is a Wonderful Life. Like he didn't realize how much of an impact he had on other people's lives. And that's what gets me up in the morning, is that I'm not done and I have a bigger impact. I have a bigger goal and a mission than just trying to get the next job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I got a bigger purpose. Yeah, I need to pay the rent like everybody else. Like I still got, one in college and one maybe going to grad school. So I was like, yeah, but it's not, there's a bigger mission, a bigger purpose, And yeah, maybe all find that thing. And some people find it in the most subtle and deeply profound ways. And some people are still trying to figure out, why am I still doing this? Why can't I not do this? We covered a lot of territory tonight, man.
Oh no, hey, that's what we do. Like that's like
boom. I'm like,
no, it's
I've been on
beautiful.
other interviews, and I'm like, we're gonna have to do like 3 of these, and I was like,
I know we have our guests come on. We like, it's a conversation, and it's like a spotlight.
That's the thing.
Yeah,
and the beautiful thing is like, maybe get it out to as many people as possible, because there's gonna be something in here that's said that's going to keep somebody going a little bit further, or try a little bit harder, or something that humanly resonates with them to go, I don't know, that guy's not giving up. That guy seems hopeful and optimistic after doing it so long. Like, well, what's my excuse?
Yeah.
Yes. And that's what we do it for. That's exactly what we do it for. Well, one of the reasons why we do what we do is to be able to reach people, and connect people who may have never connected before. It's going to be somebody who's never heard of you before, maybe, or maybe have, that here's what you have to say. Go, wait, I never thought he felt like that. Right. And, and they're open to your story, and they can see the light that you shine. And it does shine so bright. We're so happy to have you here today.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you. Yeah. So thank you so much for sharing the show stories, man. We appreciate you. So
and that's what, you're giving me a place to where we can. This is my pulpit.
Yeah, our TED Talk.
I'm the church of art and creativity, and you know what I mean.
Yes.
Sir.
Can I get it? Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Like,
yes, sir.
This is the church of creativity and unlimited, unfettered possibility.
Yes, sir.
So I feel like that's and thank you for creating it, because it's like, if you're not asking me, then I think you guys even here too, there's so many things you probably didn't know. So it's
definitely.
And fire away any questions you have too. Go ahead.
I do want to get into the Aaron Hernandez story.
Yeah, let's talk.
I want to know all about the project.
Okay,
that's honest.
Yeah, it's a cool one, because I've gotten really fortunate in this time period thus far, and I hope it continues, is playing historical characters, people that actually have existed. And this detective that I played is a real detective, and he actually broke that case. He was the guy. And he wasn't like, he was in a different area, but he kind of put the pieces together. They kind of cut it out of the show just because there was other details that they really want to, it's a bio story. So there were other details about how he connected the phones, and he figured things out. Like, he was the one that kind of, broke that case. And that's why they gave him the honor of like the perp walk that went all over the world, because it was like, hey man, you go in there. The press will be there. It's like, get your picture in. It's like, you did the work. So what's fun about that story for me is having gone to school in Boston, I was familiar with the Boston Patriots. I was familiar with I lived in Boston for a little while. I have a lot of students there. So it's like, for me, I was very familiar with the story. The fun part is that was July, just before SAG called their strike. Writers Guild had a strike, and then SAG was going to call their strike. I had worked for Ryan Murphy before. I had done American Horror Story Coven, where I was Sarah Paulson's obstetrician.
Yeah.
She couldn't have a baby, so she had to like go to the Coven to figure out how to have a baby. And then Then I was also in Freak Show, where I was one of the detectives. The freaks were killing detectives, and so then the detectives started killing freaks. So I've worked with Ryan Murphy before. When the call came in, I knew about the Aaron Hernandez story. I also had a pretty good Boston accent, so I like added that to one of my audition tapes, and I taped it with my son. So we were, because it was summertime, he was home, and but I got it in like an hour before the deadline, like because it was East Coast, because the shooting in New York.
Mhm.
I got it into like 11 o'clock East Coast time because at midnight, SAG was calling a strike. So I got
Ah,
snuck it in just before that was there. And I was like, I didn't know how long the strike was going to last. I thought, okay, maybe a
yeah,
month, whatever. October, November, we come to some agreement, right? So that audition tape had been sitting there from July all the way till the end of the year, which was Christmas. So between Christmas and New Year's, I knew that audition was solid. I did it with my son, and I did it two different ways, and my son and I did it together. And he goes like, "Hey man, that audition was dope, man. That was a really strong audition."
yeah,
I was like, "Yeah, I agree." And I had two ways I wanted to do it, and I like my work like let it stand. Every time I send myself, I'm like, I already did the job. I did the
yeah,
role, did the way I wanted. I've already got to do it. So anything else is gravy. So I'm done. And
Mhm.
so then between Christmas, right around Christmas, like called and they're like checking my availability for the next year. And I was like, from
mm,
July? And they're like, oh yeah, yeah. I was like, yeah, no, we need to run it by the like, no, the showrunner. Everybody loves they want to. Now we have to send it to the network, and the network's got to approve. But we're just checking your availability. We don't know what the dates are. It'll be sometime January, February of the next year. And I was just like, that audition was held up since July.
man,
That's a testament to making sure that the work that you do is strong enough and holds up to many eyes and many discernment,
Mhm.
many chefs and many opinions that you become, as my teacher Tim would say, you become undeniable, becomes like undeniable. So I was offered a movie to shoot in Boston, but I was like, hey man, this is Ryan Murphy. I can't like I have to be at his beck and call. I don't want to lose, like I don't want to mess up your movie, but so I gave up a movie in order to go and offer for a movie when nobody was getting offers after the strike. Some people were, but I did. I gave up this movie to do it, and then the call came, and we locked it in. So I worked in like February. So from July to February is how long that self tape been sitting around. And then when I got there, it was like I forgot to ask them about the Boston accent because it is part of the character. And I was like, I already did some takes without it. I can't like add it now. So I'm like, because so much time, and I had two different directors, and I had an incredible experience with them. One of the directors was Jennifer Lynch, which is David's
mm,
daughter, and she's directed a lot of American Horror Stories, and she's just, I mean, man, short. It was great. There was a woman who was in there, Lindsay Mendez. I didn't know. She kept saying she was doing a show. I didn't know what it was. She was doing Merrily Roll Along with Daniel Radcliffe, like, Harry Potter on
yeah,
doing 8 shows a week, and she was pregnant, and she was in there at 3, 4 in the morning getting her hairpiece done like I was getting mine done.
oh,
So I didn't know
Wow.
all, and that was getting up at 2, 3 in the morning. My apartment in Midtown, they would send I get my Uber account. They send an Uber for me. I like get up I'd be sitting in the chair for like 3, 4 hours at 4, 5 in the morning before I worked. So, and they had a hairpiece built for me. It was an incredible experience. It was
yeah,
really, uh, and the actor was, he's amazing. He was an amazing, and you watch those scenes, it was just strong.
hmm,
So, and then for me, here I am coming off a strike, and I got a recurring on a, Ryan Murphy series about, Aaron Hernandez. Like, it's just a
Yeah.
joy.
I
And
mean,
I do this on Instagram. On my Instagram, I show my audition, and then
hmm,
I do this thing called
Mm,
self-tape to set to
right.
remind people that like you're not auditioning. It's not an interview. It's the job. Like
Mhm.
I
show us
mean,
what you're going to do. Like it's not a practice. It's not a rehearsal.
yeah.
It's
I mean,
the
you have such a great resume. And I mean, from The Banker, Dallas Buyers Club, you've worked with Kurt Russell, Matthew McConaughey, Eddie Murphy. Do you have a personal favorite project that you've worked on?
yeah. I have two of many. Uh, and I love all of them. It's,
Yeah.
like uh, the other thing I was going to say to everybody is like, I only get the jobs I'm supposed to get.
Mhm.
Mhm.
What's meant for me is meant for me.
Amen.
What shall pass me passes me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a time I think everybody feels like they should get and I feel like I should get every job. But if I look back at it, like I thought I was supposed to do this other movie, and then Dallas Buyers came, and that's Dallas Buyers is the movie that kind of separated me from other people, other
Mhm.
character actors, because I beat out three names in New York, three names in LA. They were known names, but the director really felt that their familiarity would change the dynamic of the relationship between Jared and his father.
Yeah.
And in my callback, I did one scene at least 20, 25 times. I did it 40 times when we got on set. And so like I was, I earned that thing. And then lucky for me, everybody in the industry saw that. Like I
Yeah.
had that. I was a little reluctant because I was showing my reel to somebody, and I actually put the Dallas Buyers clip scene right up top. I'm like, I
Yeah.
ain't fine. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You should, if you're in the business, you saw this scene. Yes, you don't need to know. I'm just reminding you that I was in this thing that won 3 out of 6 Oscars, and the movie almost didn't get made. And I had an incredible
Mhm.
story with Jared. Was I didn't purposely decide to do it, but it worked out well. I was in the chair getting makeup done, and he was over there getting the pock marks, and he had lost all this weight. But they lost their foreign funding like the weekend before we were supposed to shoot. So I was
Yeah.
like in the hotel waiting if we were going to shoot this movie. So the movie almost didn't get made. Matthew McConaughey had a doctor on hand. He was so sick from losing weight. Jared had a doctor on hand because the first scenes that we're doing were all the scenes where they had AIDS. So it was like they were really teetering a lot.
Yeah.
And I saw him putting the stuff on, and he looked over at me and I looked over at him. And then I decided, you know what? I'm not going to talk to him because of the nature of the relationship. I'm not going to have a personal relationship with him. I'm just going to speak to him and deal with him through character. I just
Mhm.
decided that. And
Yeah.
when we got on set, I never spoke to him, barely looked at him. I just basically set up a dynamic of what this relationship's going to be. Jean-Marc Vallée is this incredible director, and uh, they had they used natural light in there. They don't bring in fake light, so they didn't move things around. They were bouncing light off the street. They had a big, and so he would
Yeah.
say "For this thing." So we would do the scene. He would have music was playing, a really sad French music would play, and then he would buy it, and he wouldn't say action. He's like, just explore the space. He would dim the music down, and then the scene would just start, and we do it, and we do it again. He goes, great. And then he'd give Jared a note, and myself. And it was like the most organic, amazing. And then he said, we have it, but well, let's improv. We would improv some stuff. And I told him, I said, well, God is punishing you. That's why you have AIDS. God
Mhm.
gave, God gave you AIDS because of who you are, who you choose,
Mhm.
and then another one would be like, I love you. I miss you. I'll do anything for you. You're my son. You're my loving. And we would, and like people are crying by the monitor, like, you know what I mean? And then 40 something takes later, he's like, we're done. And everybody was just spent at that point. And then
Yeah.
Jared, he goes, I'm Jared. I was like, I'm James. He goes, you're fucking incredible. It's like, you're incredible. And then that dude took me on 30 Seconds to Mars was in Hollywood. He takes me to the Hollywood Bowl. He puts me in the center thing. We go back to Chet. I mean, that guy took me to the Golden Globes. That guy took me to Vanity Fair. We jumped in a limo. He's like, he's with me. Like that guy didn't have to be generous with that. He goes, hold the Golden Globe. Half of this is yours. And I'm like, no, bro. He's like, no, that scene put me over the top. So, like you never know.
Yeah.
That that was a self tape that I put that on my Instagram too. My Dallas Buyers Club self tape audition is in there, and
Yeah.
then it comes to the scene, and then that movie won 3 out of 6 Oscars, and everybody in the fucking industry saw that movie.
Everybody.
Everybody, and so
Yeah.
that definitely on my top of the list there. And then
Yeah.
the other one would have to be Spencer Confidential. It's the third time working with Peter Berg.
Yes.
It's built a career-long relationship with him, and you know he he gave me stuff to make it work.
Yeah.
Like it just we he doesn't even give me direction. He comes over and he's like, yeah, I'm thinking. I was like, yeah, I'm thinking, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, yeah, that's it. Like, we don't even like a couple, we finish each other's sentences, you know? And so, like, and then sometimes he's just like, just dial it down. And I was like, yeah, we have a language, so those two are my kind of like, and even Deepwater Horizon too. I had great stories about that, as
Yeah.
well. But that was the first time working with Peter Berg, and that got me, Deepwater got me Patriots Day, and Patriots Day got me Spencer Confidential.
Yeah, beautiful work, sir. Beautiful work, and I know Matthew McConaughey. I saw him, but he's still raving about how that got done. So
Oh yeah.
thank you for what you
And
did.
the project that almost didn't get made, like, walks away with,
The
50%.
mob. Yeah,
And those guys back to back, it was supporting actor and actor. They won everything.
yeah.
It wasn't a Critics' Choice, Golden Globe, Oscars like that. It was a sweep.
Mhm. Yes,
And
sir.
that was the year of 12 Years a Slave. I think they were like,
That was,
we can't
yeah,
give them Best Picture because 12 Years a Slave is an amazing movie.
yeah,
Never give that at least Best Picture
yeah. Something,
or
but
Best Director, which they did.
yeah. So
But
yeah,
like,
so
it was, that was the year of 12 Years a Slave, which was a pretty amazing fucking movie.
yes, everybody like,
Amazing.
oh, amazing work. So
But
yeah, so yeah, hats off to you and everybody a part
I know.
of that.
Yep.
And a few more things before we wrap up.
Yeah.
Where I finally met you, Shot Town, Chicago, Actors Empowerment Summit. I didn't much know, because you know how it is on Instagram. You're like, I just, when I first saw it, I paid for it. I told people from Houston that who could make it to come out there and join me. Shout out to everybody that was a part of that panel. Thank you so much. I learned so much from you and everybody.
Wait till you see what comes up, bro. This next year.
Dude,
That's why I
I'm,
said to you, is like, that email you can share with all your Houston friends.
yeah,
Get in the car and come.
yeah.
I'm telling y'all, share, get an Airbnb, jump in that car, get an Airbnb, all share it together, bring those costs down. But I'm like, that the event that's coming up is going to be, now we have the Steppenwolf Theater Company is going to be part of the panel. Now we're dealing with the Sundance Institute, which will have a panel,
Yeah.
like Sundance Film Festival. There'll be also that thing on the Friday night will be like Illinois independent filmmakers that you're going to be meeting with and being like, it's a big deal. And I feel like what's great about the Actor Empowerment Summits are, it's the polar opposite of these pay for play casting things or pay for play weekends where they're promising kids to be on a Disney show and they're like flying and everybody's paying thousands of dollars. It's the exact opposite of that.
Yeah.
It is exactly what, the founders is Michael A. Dean and Julie Newman. And they, the three of us all work from a generosity of spirit.
Yeah.
We're all very fortunate to be able to do what we want to do, but it's like, it is all about giving back and it's all about providing that thing. And people misunderstand us. People don't get, you don't know what it is until you're there. And then when you're there, you're like, and just know, like in the regular business world, those kind of conferences are tens, millions of dollars. Business people pay millions of dollars to sit at these TED Talks, to sit on these panels and listen. It's $500 for a weekend. It's like, and the people that are on there have hundreds of years of knowledge and experience.
Yeah.
What's great about the Actor Empowerment Summit is exactly what the mission is of it, is to empower the actor. You are not alone. You are a part of this storytelling lineage that goes back. And putting yourself in the room with other creatives and like-minded people that are just trying to get better and just trying to figure out their way, and putting people on the panel that are actual living, they're not, you know what I mean? They're not trying to extract a whole bunch of money from you to fill their classes because they're a former casting director that now coaches. It's like none of that crap. It's it's people telling their story. And as I was the keynote last year, it's incredible, life-changing for me and full circle for me to come back to my hometown, be a keynote speaker at an event that helps actors. So I'm going to tell my story. How do you go from being this kid in Chicago to doing 180, credits in film and television and holding your own against the best Oscar, Golden Globe, Emmy winning actors on film and TV? How do you do that? Well, it doesn't happen overnight, I can tell you that. But the point is, that's what those empowerment summits are for, is to empowerment. You feel you leave there going, okay, I'm not alone. Other people are doing this thing. I've seen these other people. I can mentor, even though they're not my physical. I can mentor myself after what they said or did, or the notes that I take, or the people that I met. Let's go. Then now let's take that and bring that to Houston, and let's have our own. I think we should do a Houston one. I think we should do an actor empower in Houston for sure. I
Yeah.
know tons of people to be part of that. But usually what's funny is we come to town and the people that are trying to extract all the money from everybody to run their little bit, they're intimidated by us because they feel like we're going to take away their business. It's like, and that happened in Chicago too. Some people
Really?
came back and they're like, even the Chicago, they're like, "Well, we don't understand what you're doing." Then when they were there, like, oh no,
Now,
this is so not what we thought this is.
dude, I keep telling everyone to come. 'Cause, like, the first time I went out there was back in 2022. Before this, I went to a Chicago casting convention,
Mhm.
and I had so much knowledge. And I mentioned this to Chris Tishay and our other friend Mike, that's a part of this as well too. And I brought all the knowledge, and that's how I was able to get signed with Dream Team Talent, and just able to learn from others and meet others. And then I was like, okay. And I saw this come up. I'm like, what is that? And another acting friend that's up in Chicago told me about it. Went out there and everybody connected, and it was just we just had so much fun, and we learned so much. And then, and what was so beautiful about that is that me being one of the winners of on camera workout, and I was just sitting there, and people didn't know what I was going through at that time, but it was like I barely had like that much going on financially and everything else, but the fact that I was able to tell everybody else about it, and you know how the universe gives back or others give back. So what was beautiful about that is when we signed up the ticket or whatever for win this and this and this, and I was just sitting there, and then you was like, okay, this ticket number, and then like James, you're like, that's my name, but I put my name in this, and like James Joff, and you didn't pronounce my name, my last name the right way, but I was like, oh, that's me.
That's you. That's right.
And when we went for break, you came up, you put your arm around me, you're like, hey, look, this is what it is, and join this, join that. And ever since then, we've been locked in, and I just learned so much from you.
Thank you,
And
man.
I just want to tell you thank you. And also want to quick shout out to Cynthia K. McWilliams, who came on the show before you and shared
great.
more.
Great.
And we're
Talk about another person who's a light. That if I'm a light, she's a lighthouse.
Oh my
You know
gosh,
what I mean?
yes.
You know what I mean? If I'm a light, she's the sun, because I'm
Yeah.
like that. Like, she's got a lot. She's awesome. I was so, and that was the other thing for me. I'm part of that thing and one of the co-producers of it, but it's like even I was blown away by certain
Yeah.
panels. I'm like, wow, man, I don't even know this person. I know so much. It's like, so that was a joy for sure. Yeah. So we're going to do it again. It'll be September 6th and 7th in Chicago. There will be, as I said, for those who do the VIP thing, there'll be a cocktail party on the 5th. So it'll be the 5th, that Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So just make sure if you do, decide to do a road trip with everybody, and I think that's the smartest, most cost-effective way to do it.
Yeah.
It takes a bit to do. Although, some people like there's Southwest has got great flight. There's some good stuff from Houston to Chicago, it seems.
It is.
Or Spirit, even though I call it Break Your Spirit Airlines, but being kind is an option. Like your seat you got to pay for. Your water, your flotation device, you got to pay for that. It's like but
Yeah.
no, but I think planning it ahead of time and finding ways in which you guys can do it is. I just love the whole team coming up from Houston. I thought it was and I think that the deal is, didn't you guys drive back? Like people
No, we flew back. We flew back.
flew up, but then there's a
We
whole
flew
group of people that drove back because they were like, it's cheaper for us to drive to get a car and all of us to go in it and then fly back. I think that's what some people did.
I think
But
some
yeah, there
people
was a
did.
couple groups from Houston.
That really worked
so
out
whenever-
for me because I'm actually going to be well, that's my birthday weekend. Well,
Oh,
it's on the 8th of September.
birthday. It's my birthday.
So
Yeah.
normally I'm in New York doing Fashion Week in New York for I think this year's going to be like the 12th and the 13th.
Yeah, it's later.
Yeah, so I mean I can maybe just spend that whole month up there,
I think you got to come up. I think, as James will say, it's
Yeah.
you get more in, and I do that same thing with my class too. It's like people get months of tools and hours,
Yeah.
and then now put 5 people like me on a panel for an hour, and asking questions and telling stories. It's like you just quadrupled like the
Yeah.
information that somebody has.
Hmm.
It's all part of the whole, it's all part of that weekend. So I don't know. And then we also, there's some other little bigger surprises kind of around, like we might be bringing in an Oscar winning actor
Mm.
from
Okay.
London to be on a panel. We're just trying to figure out how to make that
Yeah,
happen.
make that happen.
So,
Gotcha.
we have each one we try to get a little bit bigger, you know?
Gotcha. Yeah.
But before we let you go, we just want to ask
Yeah.
one last question here. Just share with our audience just one key gem that someone has shared with you over your career.
Um, Key gem, gemstone gem. Uh, I think the one that is, there's a few. I can't just give you one because there's just too many.
Yeah.
But there's a couple, there's a few in here that I think are important, which is never give up is number one.
Mm.
You know, you'll never know if you give up. And I know that's hard. And again, I think some people really, really believe their stuff, and which is great. But I think never giving up and until it's this, or unless there's something else that you find that you have more passion for. But I feel like never giving up is really it's everything. That'd be number one. And I feel like as I talked about Dallas Buyers Club, man, you're one audition away. You have no idea. Like
Mm.
that one audition could be the thing that separates you from
Everything.
hundreds, if not tens of thousands of millions of people over a decade. It's almost 10 years for that movie now. So it's like, you never know, you never know what that's going to be. And being kind, I think, is everything. I think, uh, and it's not who you know. There's a misnomer of like, well, if I'm a friend of blah blah blah, I'm gonna get somewhere. And I was like, no, you're known as the friend of that person. No one knows you as your own. You know what I mean? You're the girl
Yeah.
that hated that guy. It's like that's not you.
Mm-hmm.
So there is this feeling like if I go to this party, if I do this thing, that I'm gonna get it. So it's not who you know, it's who knows you. And what do they know you for? Do they know you for being a kind, talented, driven, positive artist, creative? Do they know you
Mm-hmm.
that way, or they know you as the buddy and the friend of who hangs out with, who takes pictures with, who shows up with,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I think that's a different thing. And then Henry Winkler had the best one, which is it's a hustle at every level. Henry
Mm.
Henry Winkler turned to me, he's like, man, don't fight it. Just embrace the hustle. But it's a hustle at every level.
Mm-hmm.
A TV person wants to be a film actor. A film actor wants to revive their career by being on TV. Like everybody's hustling at some. So once you realize it's a hustle at every level and you don't be angered and resentful of that, you embrace that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's a good thing. Like I just met with somebody who's a much younger person who I'm interested in talking about representing me, and it's like they have none because of who they are, and they have none of that they love the hustle.
Mm-hmm.
They love the investment. Whereas other people are angered and triggered and beaten down by it and want to do other things. It's like
Mm-hmm.
you're not for me,
Yeah.
you know? So I feel like that's a thing. So I gave you a few more than one, just because
No.
it's just hard to kind of sum it up into one thing
Yeah.
because it's a culmination of all those things, really, if you really look at all those things cumulatively of being
Yeah.
kind, you're on a journey. There's no destination. You're just on a journey. Enjoy the journey, enjoy the struggle, enjoy the hustle. There'll be ups and downs. It's part of the journey.
Yes, sir.
Change yourself, repivot yourself. I've lost weight, gotten, new headshots. I mean, I'm doing new things. I got just cut a brand new reel. Like, every quarter I just do Masogi is another thing, right?
Yeah.
Always changing, always be getting the most out of it, so that you really feel like when you're done, your feet up, and you move on to whatever that is, that you did your best, you
Yeah.
you, uh, you made like as you made an impact, you know.
Yeah.
Quincy Jones, I'm a big fan of Quincy Jones, his life and his legacy, and he
Mm-hmm.
used to say, "Man, I want when I want to leave, I want people to know the people that I came through here."
Mm.
Like, oh, I think we know. I think
Yeah.
we know that Quincy Jones came through this world.
Yes, we do. We definitely do.
You know what I mean? So it's like that's he's another Chicago guy that I subscribe to, like, you know, and he had all these other little philosophical things that in the documentary about Quincy Jones is like, just watch it. There's all these gems that he has in there. But yeah, I want to know that I came through here. You know, I had an impact.
And you're leaving your mark. You definitely
Yeah,
do.
like beyond my kids. They're like, you know,
Mhm.
that's the thing. That's the other beautiful thing about teaching is you do live forever
Mm-hmm.
in the hearts and the minds of the people that you share with your wisdom, knowledge, and experience with.
Yes.
You live forever. Like your
Yes.
physical body could go, but you never forget those teachers, those mentors, those even those aunts and uncles that were raising you when your parents didn't know how. You know, so
Mm-hmm.
you never forget those people. So you get to live on. So that's pretty much my secret right now.
Yes, sir. Beautifully said. Beautifully
You know?
said.
Definitely.
I get to physically, I get to live forever in the hearts and minds of others, you know.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Share with the audience. Yeah, no, it's for real.
The winning
Yeah. I was gonna say, share with the audience where we can follow you at.
Yeah, best is I use stuff on my personal Instagram, which is James Dumont, Dumont. But I also throw like lots of gold on camera workouts. I tell everybody, if you want to scroll through Instagram and get some stuff, there's like a lot of free good stuff on my IG on camera workouts. I've been trying to move more stuff towards on camera workouts so that I can really keep my actor page for this new film that I have coming out, which is the Don Johnson film. So, which I did 3 years ago, 4 years ago. So it's finally coming out, you know, so
Is that unit
234.
unit 234? Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's coming out March 9th. But so that, and then we have a best way for my classes is oncameraworkouts.com. It's pretty simple. You can always people email us at oncameraworkouts@gmail for information about classes and stuff. But everything's on our website. We try to keep it updated as much as we can. And but Instagram, following us at On Camera Workouts is probably the best. But there's great stuff in there. You know, like I put it up there for free. Like people go like, "Hey man, you're telling us about all your classes," and I was like, if you don't know what's going on, then how are you going to know? So,
You're right. Yes, sir.
and trust me, I got a lot more than that 30-second clip.
And it's very helpful. And so we once again, Sir Dumont, thank you so much for everything, the knowledge, the wisdom, the stories. We definitely would love to have you come back on again.
Absolutely, man. And I'm sure you can cut this into 5 different.
I'm definitely gonna
you can do little sound bites like, there's this one, and there's this goal right here. You're like, say that to people. I'm like, cut the hell out of this, man, because
we definitely will.
like even when I do my 1 hour like self-tape Sundays, like it's 60 minutes. I ain't gonna listen to all this. I'm just gonna pull this. I'm gonna pull this. You know, here's 30 seconds. Here's a little nibble of this. Right?
There you go. You tune in to watch. We need the views.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again.